Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here today. We'll call this meeting to order, and if you'll please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We're going to 1.03, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. We'll now move into 1.04, introduction of our student board member, Mr. Zachary Gohl. Susan?
Yes, Zach is a senior at Spring Creek High School. He is involved in track, football, and student council. He currently is Spring Creek High School senior class president. His future plan is to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 2 years and then attend Utah Valley University and major in business. Welcome.
Thank you, Zach. And at this time, we will go to 1.05, a presentation on the annual CTE update from Ms. Heather Steele.
Hi, thank you. I'm Heather Steele. I'm a CTE facilitator for Elko County School District. I'd like to start with letting you all know that I am one voice for many people. The people that I work with that makes this huge CTE thing work. There's 30 programs, 51 different teachers, 5 CTE paraprofessionals, 1 alignment coordinator, 18 counselors, and 9 principals, and 2,982 unduplicated CTE students this year. So just to give you an idea of the math, that's almost 1/3 of the population of the school district. So if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'm going to read them all off. I appreciate, thank you. Because of FERPA, I'll only be referring to them as student 1, student 2, student 3.
This is where we have the 3-minute limit, right?
Start the timer. Anyway, so you guys received the board presentation, of course. What I did this year, in the interest of time, was focused my presentation on the things that we're doing to meet our strategic plan. And of course, I've included some data. This is my favorite slide right now. So this is the number of industry recognized credentials our students have earned over the last 3 years. You can see it's a focus of what we're doing here, and it's doing well. So last year, close to 1,000 students earned an industry recognized credential to put themselves to work. Those are, well, no, that can be duplicated. We issued almost 1,000 industry recognized credentials. Some students may have received multiples. So on the ECSD strategic plan under Pillar 1, students are prepared for the future is where the CTE stuff is. Everything except for accelerated math pathways and those higher education guidance counselor position at the high school kind of fall under our umbrella. Although we have hired Desiree McQueen with Perkins Competitive Money, who is an alignment coordinator working with us and GBC to kind of bring that higher education piece into CTE. So really quick, expanding pathways and offerings. We brought Adobe Middle School pathways in. Elko High School added 3 new ones. Jackpot added 2. Spring Creek Middle is actually now incorporating a pretty awesome curriculum called CASE. And then Wells High School, we brought theater technology on board. Everything that has an asterisk in the presentation has funded projects one way or another. The other one of the points was collaborate with the Mining School of Excellence. We currently have 2 students that are taking classes through the Mining School of Excellence. And We're initiating a process at the state level for bringing finally on board a mining sciences and technology CTE pathway. We don't have one. Dual credit offerings is something that we have increased significantly. UNR, TMCC, GBC, UNLV, in order to give our students more dual credit pathways. Our current dual credit offerings in CTE pathways are 0. It's one of our Perkins indicators, so this is a big push this year. And then, of course, my favorite topic, the Spring Creek Ag Lab construction. We applied for a $1.3 million competitive grant to help cover that increased cost. Hopefully with this month, my real CTE celebration will be able to tell you that I have secured those funds, and let's move forward. We actually are, with our competitive application, 4.3 million is what's available for the whole state, and we applied for 3.2. And that's it. I also provided you some data with some numbers as part of your presentation. So if you have any specific questions, I would be happy to address those.
Questions from the board?
I don't have a specific question, but thank you for providing data and for tying it to one of our pillars. That was really informative to me. And thanks for all your work.
Thanks, Susan.
Just want to ask, how, I know that there was some things with the teacher, I'm missing the name of it. Basically that ed program, the elementary ed program.
Yes, through UNLV.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that continuing forward? We're doing well on that.
We are. So as UNLV was just here with their deans and directors and things from the College of Education last week, we spent some time in Hawaii. As I understand it, we have 17 staff members from Elko County School District enrolled in the process with the intention of moving from their current professional capacity, however that is, training to be teachers. And in the summer, we will start working on our teach and train pathways for those students to enter legitimate apprenticeships and start working on their core classes so that by the time that they graduate high school, we would be able to hire them on as parapros. And then they would finish their last 2 years and they would be teachers.
It's fantastic.
Yep. Oh, and it's 100% cost covered for all of them.
100%.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to reiterate, thank you. This is fantastic. And I'll just close with what I've said since I've been on the board. CTE is the future. And if you don't believe it, you better start looking. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Heather, quick question. There was one slide that you gave in the data indicating a number of programs that were sunsetting. Are all of
Yes.
those sunsetting at the end of this academic year, or are they staggered?
We've been in a transition period now for 3 years with these sunsetting programs. So some of them are already out. Some of them are in the process of their way out because we needed to be able to finish the 3-year pathways. While we've been finishing 3-year pathways, we've been moving the new 2-year pathways into their place. So depending on the program, I could tell you where we're at in the transition period.
Okay. I know I'm throwing this at you without any forewarning.
Sure.
Are most of these sunsetting because of that transition from 3 to 2? And if not, about what percentage are because of lack of instructors?
So none of that is happening right now.
Okay.
The reason that programs are sunsetting and new programs are coming on board is because the Nevada Department of Education decided that instead of having 3-year CTE pathways, we needed to move to 2-year pathways so students could complete multiple pathways while they're in high school. And we could get completers turned over more quickly. So we're not actually losing any pathways. We're losing a few to them being deemed as CTE, but the high schools are still keeping them and they just won't be under the CTE umbrella and they won't be funded by CTE.
Thank you. And I'd like to echo, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Cole, anything you'd like to ask or inquire into?
Sorry, no specific questions. Really like that presentation. I did CTE for 3 years in foods with Mrs. Demick at Spring Creek High School, and it was all amazing. A lot of fun. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Steele. All righty, we will move to 1.06, recognition of the January S.T.A.R.S recipients.
My turn?
Your turn. Yes, sir.
And turn the time over to me, so I wasn't
I
sure.
apologize. Mr. Anderson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Chair McCarty. Before I read the nominations for our 3 S.T.A.R.S award winners for the month of February, or wait, are these January? No, these are February, right? These are for January. Okay. Right. Yes, we are in February. Thank you to our sponsors, Leanne's Floral Designs, Maverick Gaming, Rotary Club of Elko Desert Sunrise, and the Star. We couldn't do this without them. So we really appreciate their generosity and participation. We have 3 S.T.A.R.S award winners to announce. One of them, I'm going to read the first one who isn't here with us tonight. She couldn't be here. And so I'll read hers first, and then we'll get to the ones that are here in person. So and again, just for context, what I love so much about the S.T.A.R.S awards, in addition to the fact that they're amazing people, is that these are awards that are nominated by parents, by coworkers, by students, by anybody. Anyone can recognize an exceptional employee for what they do for their student or for their friend or for their peer, that kind of thing. And so that's pretty special. It's usually a lot of meaning that comes with it. So this first one is recognition of Patty Brubaker, who is a bus driver in Spring Creek. And her nomination reads, Patty is a bus driver in the Spring Creek area of our district. Patty has developed an amazing rapport with her students. Students that are no longer on her bus come to her bus almost daily to tell her they miss her and fill her in on what is going on in their lives. Patty is always inspiring students and staff to do amazing things. Patty not only takes care of her students, but she also is concerned for her community. During December, she organized a collection box for the local animal shelter and dropped off some much needed items. In November, she did a coat drive. Patty is always willing to help students and staff in any way they need. She keeps the bus barn and her route upbeat and positive. Her bus is decorated with inspirational quotes that promote a positive, healthy environment for the brief time the students are on board. Patty goes above and beyond for her students and coworkers if in need, and she's willing to do whatever she can to make someone's life a little better. It was fun doing that presentation to Patty. A whole bunch of the other bus drivers showed right back up to work after they finished doing their routes in the morning, and they all came to celebrate with her. And it was great. You could tell there was a little family dynamic there going on, and even giving some good, friendly jabbing with Seth, who's their big boss. And it was a really good environment, and really appreciate Patty and all she does to have her students start the day well and end the day well, regardless of what's going on. So congratulations to Patty. All right, next up, Mr. Eaton. Why don't you stand up, step forward a little bit here. And then is Sophia Green here? Oh, hello, Sophia. I haven't met Sophia. Oh no, we did, because you nominated another person, didn't you? So this is the second teacher that Sophia has nominated and who's been chosen for this award. So you either write really great nominations, or you just have really great teachers, or a combination of both. So, all right. So I got a copy of it right here. If you would like to go stand right next to your nominated teacher, and there's a microphone there, make sure you push the button so the light is green, and then we'll let you read.
I officially nominate Mr. Eaton to be recognized by the Board of Trustees for the Employee Recognition S.T.A.R.S program. Mr. Eaton is a wonderful teacher. He may have a bad reputation for being strict, but it is only to make sure his students grow up to be respectful, responsible adults who know what is right from wrong. He may enforce the rules a lot, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't nice. He's always willing to work with students and help them whenever possible. Even getting along with students is not an issue, especially with his amazing humor. He may seem all mean and serious, yet his sense of humor is genuinely the best. Besides his humor, Mr. Eaton is dedicated to his job as a physical science teacher at Elko High School. He encourages his students to put their best effort into assignments and to always ask for help if needed. He truly prepares his students for the real world and treats us as young adults. Overall, he just wants the best for us. Not to mention his engaging teaching style and passion for the subject have ignited a genuine curiosity for science in his students. Through hands-on experiments and innovative lessons, he fosters an environment where learning becomes an exciting journey. Mr. Eaton's dedication to his students' success is evident, making him truly deserve this nomination.
Thanks for coming and reading that for us. Mr. Eaton was so focused on his lesson that he only sort of noticed when I and a couple people walked in the room, and it wasn't until he saw 6 of his colleagues standing out in the hallway peering in through the door that he realized something was up. And I had to ask him to stop teaching for a minute because he just kept doing his thing and helping kids. And so I asked him to come on up to the front of the classroom, and we presented that to him and his class, and it was awesome. So thank you very much, Mr. Eaton, for what you're doing for your students and for having that positive impact. It's awesome. Yeah. All right, next one, and to my knowledge, this is the first of its kind, so we're gonna be excited about that. But hiding in the back of the room is Miss Jennifer Goal. Why don't you come on up, Jennifer? Yep. Come on up. There you go. And Jennifer's got a friend with her as well. So the reason I say this is the first of its kind is because at least in the time I've been doing it, and then the time I've been in Elko County, I hadn't seen it. But Ms. Goal is a vice principal at Adobe Middle School, and to my knowledge, we haven't had an administrator receive this award yet. And I'd kind of like inwardly wondered when it was going to happen. Like, is the committee even going to allow it to happen? And then here it was. So it's really exciting. And she's got with her Savannah Oliver. Hello, Savannah. Thanks for joining us. Would you like to read your nomination as well? All right, there we go. So there it is. Same thing. Go to the microphone, make sure it's on, and we will listen.
Is experiencing a low point, she always finds the time to talk to them and help them out. She always participates in school spirit days and activities, and even participates with students during dress-up days. Before she was one of Adobe's vice principals, she was a math teacher there. When she was a math teacher, she had a deep desire for inspiring her students to learn and do one's best in her class. She also ensured that all of her students had the desire to learn and thrive. Near the end of the year, Ms. Goal had to take a leave of absence. Even though she was absent in the classroom, she still made sure to reach out to us and encourage us to try our best on the assignments in her class, and even assignments from other classes. After she returned, she greeted all of us with open arms and returned back to teaching. Even after being gone for multiple months, she went straight back to teaching like it was nothing. While I do not attend Adobe Middle School anymore, Ms. Goal still reaches out to me to ask how I am doing and always supports me at my concerts. Ms. Goal shows great excellence in her position in the school district, shows compassion and empathy to every single student, and promotes a positive school environment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goal. And I love. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing your students. I love that the students are submitting nominations, and I love that Miss Nielsen and Mr. Zadare are also here to support their fellow administrator. And it also made me laugh a little bit that 2 of our 3 nominations this month, or for that month, both of the kids who just read their nominations talked about how the staff members around them were sometimes hard on them. Like, she does assign discipline and is tough on kids when they need it. She recognized that Mr. Eaton, he's hard on them. He makes sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's not easy, as everyone knows, whether you're a teacher or an administrator or just you're a parent in the room, finding that delicate balance of knowing how to nurture, but also but also provide that structure that a student needs to be able to thrive is very important. And so they're making the magic happen with that sweet spot. So we really appreciate what you're doing, and thank you, Jennifer. I haven't thanked you individually yet, but thank you for being an awesome administrator. We love having you on our team.
Thank you. Let's get one more round of applause for Ms. Brubaker, Mr. Eaton. All righty, at this time, we'll move on to 1.07 input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under the item of this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. I know that I have 3 items or 3 requests for public comment, all respective to one item on the agenda. You're welcome to take the mic now if you'd like, but we'll also have time for that when we get to item 2.02. Any public comment? All right, briefly, for those that may still be watching at home or anybody that needs to in this room, you have approximately 1 hour and 2 minutes to go vote. If you would like to go vote in Elko, it's at the library. In Spring Creek, it's at Spring Creek Association, and each of the other communities has something. So if you'd like to vote for the presidential preference primary poll, you've got about an hour and a minute. Okay, with that said, we'll move on to 2.01. This is receipt review and possible approval of the Elko County School Site Administrators Association, ECSSAA collective bargaining agreement, and this is up for possible action. Mr. Anderson, do you want this, or do you want us to turn it over to Mr. Krinka?
I can take it. So just as we did with the ECTA and EXO bargaining units, they have an agreement. Those have certain terms. The last year was the kind of first iteration of the administrators union. They formalized and created that agreement, and it was for 1 year. So we had to come back again this year, and it's taken a little bit of time, but the agreement that is there is what negotiation produced, and just for transparency's sake, as is the case with all negotiations, there are certain meetings that happen between school district management and the board. When labor discussions are happening, those are not subject to open meeting, and so the school board has seen the agreement. They've known kind of what's in there and how we got to that point. So I'm happy to answer any further questions that you may have, and also Mr. Krenka, who's here, and Mr. Smith as well. They were both involved in the negotiations also. So we're here and happy to answer any questions should you have them.
Any questions from the board? How would the board like to proceed?
I move to approve Elko County School Site Administrators Association, ECSSAA collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. We'll now move on to 2.02. Receipt, review, and possible approval of requests for purchase of retirement service credit, and this is for possible action. I know that we have some public comment on this. We'll turn it over first to Mr. Anderson, and then we'll enter into public comment.
Thank you. You've all been through this at least once, some of you twice before. Annually, we have there's an opportunity for certain for employees who meet certain criteria to request a buyout, which is purchase of service credit towards the retirement system. If they meet certain criteria, there are two of note. There are two attachments here. There are two because depending on how the board voted with 2.01, that would change slightly some of the numbers involved. So now that you have approved the admin contract, the relevant attachment is the one that says post admin. So that's the one we would be voting on. And it is laid out in such a way, trying to be as clear categorically as we can. There are 5 teachers that have requested a buyout. There is 1 administrator. And then there are 2 additional employees. One is a teacher, one's a nurse, and they are in their own category because while they meet certain criteria, they also are eligible to retire without a buyout. So per request from the board before, and just our processes as they have been in the past, we separate those out so everyone's aware of what each situation is, and they are all there for your viewing. If you have any questions, I can help answer them. Cody could probably also do a decent job answering them. He'd rather I do it. I can see the look on his face, but he's also well equipped to do so. And then I know you have some public comment you want to probably hear as well.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to start with public comment. We have one person that submitted, was not able to be here. This is in regards to this public item titled Retirement 2024 Board Meeting 2/6/24. My name is Karen Oneida Cantrell. I began my journey with the Elko County School District in 1996. I worked in Carlin for a year, Sage Elementary for 24 years, and in 2021, I transferred to Spring Creek High School. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the students and staff at each and every school. In 2021, my son passed away, and my partner of 13 years was rapidly declining from FTD, frontotemporal dementia, in June of 2023, I nearly escaped losing another child. Board members, I have given my heart and soul, providing 28 years of service to my students and fellow employees. It is now time for my journey to end with Elko County School District. By purchasing my service credit will allow me to give each and every moment to my family and myself. Thank you. I have 2 more. Mr. Johnson, I'll have you come up first, and then Ms. Chamberlain.
I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to express my gratitude for working for Elko County School District. I love Elko County School District. I've loved my time. Some of my best friends, people I associate with, principals, teachers, coworkers. Best part's the students. I love my students. We have such power to change lives, change families. I've been around long enough that I'm on the 2nd generation and just about to the 3rd generation, and we make a difference. And I'll also say that I love our schools. My in-laws, my wife, 6 of my kids all graduated from Elko County School District. They've gone to prestigious universities, done well. I have 2 kids that were student body presidents, kids on state championship teams. It's a wonderful school district. Why am I ending? I'm a behavior analyst. I have opportunities to work with kids with challenging behavior in a private practice that I can't do if I'm a member, or if I'm part of the district. I have complete and total trust in our district office and in the board. I thank you for all that you do, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Chamberlain.
Read your notes. Thank you, board members, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Gray. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words regarding the purchase of retirement service credit. I understand you have a big decision in front of you. I must be absolutely honest, as I foresee a situation not only with myself, but with many employees who may fall under a similar umbrella in the future. I'm asking for 0.37 of 1 year to retire with 30 years. This makes the waters a bit muddy in that 0.37 equates to 4 months and 15 days. My date of retirement will fall around the 15th of November, 2024. It is assumed another administrator in Elko will be moved into my current position, causing an unfortunate disruption across schools. This is not my intention. However, it is important for you to understand and consider this as you make your decision. I'll leave you with your words from last year. When approving the buyout credit for those that met the criteria, both Mr. McCarty and Mr. Durham made the point that they plan to stay consistent in their vote. Mr. Durham also made sure to note that he would be, quote, going in the same direction the rest of the way out for applicants next year and the year after. So here we are. It is next year, and we do meet the criteria. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Board, and now turn it over to you.
I have a question on eligible to retire without buyout. Is that the same as buyout criteria not met? Because that's the way it's been worded in the past. So I want to make sure the language I'm understanding.
I think it's the same category. The wording is somewhat different. The reason they are in both of these cases, the reason they're eligible to retire without buyout is because of their age. Once you hit a certain age, regardless of how many years of service with PERS you have, you can retire with however many years those are. And there's a sliding scale based on how many years. But you are eligible to retire without any penalty against your percentage as long as you have hit a certain age. And so that is why those people are eligible to retire without us doing a buyout. The purchase of service credit for those two individuals would be to better improve their retirement position.
So technically the buyout criteria wasn't met because we typically don't do that.
Cody, would you like to? I'm not sure how to answer that question.
Okay, by practice, you're right. We typically haven't done that. By policy, they are eligible. In the past, when it says on the bottom criteria not met, is because they didn't meet the 20 years within the school district to be under consideration. These are still under consideration, but they do not require a buyout in order to retire.
Whereas the rest of the ones all on the page would require the buyout in order to be eligible for full retirement.
Okay, then my other question, I'm just trying to understand everything. The before admin and the post admin in the little box that has math check are the same numbers. So there's no difference. Because on a different document, I have different numbers, so I'm confused.
Sorry.
So I'm going to take that one for just a moment because I think there may have been a duplication of a document that was put on there. Previously, the page was different. As it currently sits, the two documents on the agenda in board docs are identical.
That's accurate. Thank you for catching that, Susan. The original two were on there, and then we made that clerical adjustment with the name of that last category, And then there was a column that was requested to be added, the earned service credit with agency 204. So upon that request from board members, it does appear that the same one was uploaded twice as opposed to having different ones. Cody, can you confirm, please, once you get a moment, that we're looking at the one that actually is the post admin, please?
Because in the post admin one ties to total estimate savings was 116,952. Now it's 160,693. So I don't know which one I'm supposed to be looking at. This was the first one.
The one you're holding is the original one. I think that one too, actually.
Right, they are. I'm just
No, and
asking,
then-
so they should be?
No, they shouldn't be. So it's probably this one.
So should everybody else.
Correct.
Now, this is our mistake for this confusion. I apologize. I'm looking at the two original ones as well, Susan, and the 17,548 was the post-admin one before. The pre-admin contract one before the savings was 17,289. Or sorry, wait, no, yes, that's correct. So the 17,548 is the one that incorporates the 8.5 or the everything that goes along with the admin association contract. Cody's up to answer more questions.
Nope. So basically what he just said, we got lucky and uploaded the one that you have approved that is associated to it. Right. You are correct. The previous one that was up there before, the additional corrections were made earlier today was, like he said, 17,289 on that admin. So the one you're looking at is the one that would be up for consideration. Additional comments or questions?
I've got something. Can you all hear me there?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so just to kind of reply to the comment on moving forward and being consistent, that was also tied in with items that save the district money and being fiscally responsible. And I see, on the teacher side and the those eligible to retire without the buyout, there is a cost saving, but the administration one there is not. But I believe she brings up an important point that we're talking about a third of a year. And I'm just curious as to what is the process of replacing that administrator next year in retirement if we were not to approve that buyout. What would we be doing? Somebody would be moving in November, or is that? I wonder if that affects the cost savings at all, if that gives us a true number. And I just would like an opinion on that.
Yeah, so a couple notes on Ms. Chamberlain's scenario. So to directly answer your question, it's a management decision. What I would prefer to do, if it just because it makes the most sense to me, it doesn't seem right to put 3 different schools in upheaval. If we assume that a standing administrator would potentially go over there as that principal, then that would change her school. Then if we took a teacher out of another school and put that into the other administrator who just got moved school, then that would also then impact that teacher's classroom. To me, it doesn't make sense to make those sudden changes mid-semester for a school. I'm going to be very disruptive to lots of kids and situations. And so I think the preferable way to do it would be to identify who the new principal would be ahead of the school year, identify who the replacement administrator for that administrator would be ahead of the school year, and then of course have a another individual take the place of potentially whichever other staff member took that role, and have them in place at the start of the school year, so there wouldn't be any crazy awkward transitions. I think that would be in the best interest of the students and those schools. But as you identified, Mr. Durham, that for a third of a year, we would be essentially paying for an extra role for during that time. So that is the case. Something I also was asked to mention, because last year it wasn't, people aren't noticing the fine print. It's not even that fine of print, it's about the same size font, it's just in italics. And it got printed in the newspaper, unfortunately, last year. But if someone were to look at Miss Chamberlain's salary under column D, they might see that they might mistakenly think that she makes $260,371 a year, and that is not Miss Chamberlain's salary. I'm sure she probably wouldn't be asking for a third of a year if that were her salary. She'd be hanging around a little longer. The addendum to the administration category up there at the top, it says it's a savings from roll up of 3 levels. So it assumes how much savings happen when you combine, you take into consideration the salary of a principal and a vice principal and a teacher, and those things get rolled together. And so if it looks like it's a little closer to 3 people's salaries, that's because that's what it is. So just to make sure that's clear, we don't get any errant information out there about that. But anyway, did I answer your question, Mr. Durham?
I think so, yeah. I'm still just wondering how accurate that $17,000 figure is, if that's based on 3 people and not 1.
To my knowledge, it is accurate. I didn't do the math because we have finance people that do the math, but that is after running numbers multiple times, that is the number that is reflected.
Additional comments or questions from the board?
Is this anywhere in our budget? Like before, will you remind me if Julie puts something in there for buyouts?
There is not a specific pot of money that is allocated for buyouts every year. No.
Where would this come out of then, approximately? Approximately.
Usually the answer to that is the general fund.
Yeah, so I thought.
So if it comes out of the general fund, savings realized from salary, from the position changes, would also come out of the general fund.
Come out of or go into?
Or sorry, go into, I should say. Or is it possible that some of this may be sped or, see, I mean, all the different buckets of money that we have? That sounds terrible, but I know you know what I'm talking about, I hope.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's hard to know because remember that these savings, it's not money that comes into our pocket next year. It's projections based on averages and it's estimates. And so the quick answer to your question, you said, would it also go back to the general fund? In as much as the general fund would not have to pay a higher paid person when they're paying a lower paid person, then as long as that position comes out of the general fund, then yes, that money would go back to the general fund. But if it's a position that comes out of the categorical special education, then it would, it would benefit that account. So I guess potentially, the saving wouldn't be reflected directly to the general fund if it was for one of those positions. So Mr. Johnson, for example, is a special education teacher. But I do not know off the top of my head where most of our employees are paid out of. The majority are out of general fund, but some are grant funded, some are out of special education, some are out of ELL. They come out of different funds depending on how much the state has given us and what we have available.
So theoretically, if we were to approve this for the specific case of Mr. Johnson, money would come out of the general fund to pay for this, but then there would be savings under SPED, which would mean that potentially there'd be less transfer needed to go into SPED to balance that budget at the end of the year when we do these balance transfers anyways.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated math formula we're starting to get into, especially since we don't even get to decide how much money we get from the state for SPED. They allocate based on number of students and how much we had to spend, during this year and other years. So it's that in and of itself is a rolling formula that kind of catches up to itself over years. So, the Nevada Department of Education doesn't know that we did a purchase of service credit for a special education teacher. They look at expenditures for those years and students and needs.
Thank you.
Can you also explain why Miss Hamilton, why she's up there and not underneath the?
Yeah, I can do that. I don't have exact numbers for you, but the quick explanation for Miss Hamilton is Miss Hamilton has multiple years of service credit with in law enforcement, and their formula for when they're eligible to retire, the number of years is less than for an educator. And so the reason she is up there is because we make ahead of doing this, we make contact with PERS and we say they're requesting X number of years to be eligible for retirement. If we purchase 0.42 for this person, does that make them fully eligible? And they say yes. And so we don't do the calculation for why that's the case, but PERS has indicated that she is, with this purchase, she would be eligible.
Have we done that in the past? Reason it
don't know.
doesn't ring a bell that.
There probably, the answer to that is I don't know. There probably haven't been a ton of police officers that have left at that certain point in their career and then become teachers. It's probably not as common as you would think. Or maybe you wouldn't think it's that common. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't seen it since I've been doing this. It's probably not very common.
Anything else from the board? Briefly in regards to that last person that we were discussing, if we approve this, technically, we are violating policy GBC 19. We have that authority of being able to go past that to a degree because, as Mr. Anderson just said, the authorizing agency, PERS, has approved this. GBC 4A does state, however, that the employee must have completed at least 28 years of employment with PERS participating employer. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention so that it's out there now. With that, since we don't seem to have any other discussion, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Well, I do have a question though. Would that policy apply to those eligible to retire without a buyout? Because they're also below 28 years.
That's the way I understand it. And to me, then Miss Hamilton should have been put in the bottom because we don't usually pick one person out of something.
Yeah, we usually don't. I think the thought with Miss Hamilton, and again, is the way PERS works is they a year of something is worth in the case of a police officer, for example, a year for us is more like a 1 point something year for them, and so it's the equivalent of 28 to get to that, or it would be by the time the mathematics work out for it, the way they factor those police years or those law enforcement years, bring it up to the point where it would be 30. I hear what you're saying, Matt. Our policy very specifically says 28. What I would say is the math works out to have it equivalent to what a teacher would be at 28 is this person who has law enforcement service credit. But it's probably a flaw in the wording of our policy, or maybe it's not a flaw. Maybe we just want to have it straightforward like that. But that's the way I look at that and why I think that person is still eligible. But that's my opinion.
And Jeff, I apologize. I thought I had read about the 60-year in our policy, and I was rereading it again, and I don't see that. That's why I did not bring that up. So I think your and Susan's point stands.
I'd like to throw something out here. I understand the purpose of the buyouts. I understand the emotion that can be behind it. But I also like to, there's also a hard fact that we are behind the 8 ball on money right now. And while, yes, we're talking 6 figures, we're talking budgetarily wise, we are close to that in an uncomfortable manner. I just want to make sure that the board's aware that, and I know you guys are, but I just want to make sure on record, you're aware that we are really close with our constraints on finances as well. So especially with the bargaining agreements that we've approved and those moving forward, the decrease in funding we've seen from the state, hopefully we can change that. Pupil center funding really did hurt our district. We're not talking about a district in the past that has been able to just look at these and say, you know what, these make sense, and we're helping our people could, retire a little early. We also have to look at what are we looking at in the future? Like where are our finances going? And so I just want to make sure that that's on the table, that we're all thinking about that as much as we're thinking about, hey, one of these administrators might be on working until November. Hey, this person worked as a police officer. Like, I appreciate the service that they've given and the wonderful things they've done. Some of these people have actually been in direct contact with my children as they've gone through, and I appreciate everything they've done, but we also have to make hard decisions as far as where our finances. So I want to make sure that that's brought to the table too, that we're looking at that as much as 6 figures, in the grand scheme of things. When we had 7, 8, 9 figures in these different areas, we are that close in our budgetary constraints.
The aim of this is to save money, correct?
Yes, and the savings is 1/3 of what the cost. Almost like 29% some change.
Is there a motion?
I'm still uncomfortable with the way the different groups are. And I'm not trying to pick on any one person, because I pulled up last year's, and for one person, they were asking for a buyout that would get them to 30 years, but they hadn't spent that time with the district, even though it was still, well, that was with the college system, right? So that's different. Okay. Sorry, I'm answering my own questions as I'm asking them. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not have a motion yet. I really wanted to hear from the board on all of this, but I have been sitting here doing this for a lot of years, and I so appreciate where people are by the time they put their name on this list. I have said this before. I appreciate the time you have given our district. I appreciate what you have done for our students. And this is also the most challenging budgetary year I've ever been participated in. And as much as I would like to say thank you with a dollar figure, I'm not sure I'm prepared for that. Like I say, I would love to hear a little more sway either direction from the board.
I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat that Teresa is. And then I think back to discussions that we had as a board when it came to the raises that the teachers got and kind of what the agreement was on that. If they get this raise, what does that mean for buyouts? So if I remember right, with what we approved for teachers raises, kind of meant that when Julie was here, kind of meant that buyouts were off the table a little bit because of our budget constraints. So I don't know if I'm just remembering that wrong, but am I remembering that wrong?
I can jump in there. What you're referring to is mostly internal conversations that have happened. There was never anything publicly stated. However, I'm not going to share all the words that were said in closed sessions because I'm not supposed to do that. But in negotiations with each of the unions, I can share that it was made clear that as desire for increased percentages of raises were made known, that money had to come from somewhere, and several different areas were mentioned as possibilities. And you're correct that the purchase of buyouts was one of those areas. And I would say that it's fair to say that it was understood by all parties that we talked with during negotiations that that this was a possibility.
Any additional comments from the board?
I just want to make sure that I'm accurate here in that Kamaya Hamilton, Raymond Langer, and Priscilla Krantz none of those have 28 years of service, and that would violate policy if we were to approve that. Is that correct?
With straight service to PERS as listed on this document, yes. However, to Mr. Anderson's point on what PERS recognizes with the emergency services, if I recall correctly, 20 years of service in emergency services is considered full-time. So in essence, 2/3 of the time that someone is in a school district position would apply back towards the emergency services.
I understand that with PERS, but I'm talking about specifically our policy, the one that you mentioned. What was that again, Chief?
So it's GBC 19, and the way it's currently listed, and it reads, to qualify, the employee must have been employed in the Elko County School District a minimum of 20 years, have completed at least 28 years of employment with PERS participating employer Nevada, and must agree to retire upon the completion of the purchase. So I think the sticking point is the 28 years with PERS participating employer, and it doesn't give credit for emergency services. Mr. Krinka?
But it would if she qualifies for PERS, according to what the superintendent said.
Go ahead, Cody.
Sorry, this might help you in this debate if you're on the same policy. You're talking about A. I draw a reference to C, that this is probably one of the reasons this section's in there. On C, it says no language contained herein shall be construed as to prevent the district from purchasing up to 2 years of service if the Elko County School District Board of Trustees determines that it is beneficial for the district to do so. So even though it has these types of guidelines, in my interpretation, Section C of that would allow you to purchase Ms. Hamilton or any of them.
Would essentially make it not a violation of policy.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Thank you. And Susan, yes, to your point,
Because she has 20 years with the district over that.
Correct.
And then she has put into the PERS system.
To the PERS requirement of what they're looking for, yes.
Right. So to me, she does meet the policy that we have.
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of you think. That's just the way I'm interpreting it. I
It's a
guess.
strange situation. It's exactly why C is in this policy, is because you can't anticipate every situation, and the equivalent of 28 years is essentially what we're talking about. But or in this case, it would be more like the 29 and I don't know, 2/3 or something. I don't know how the math works out, but yes, she would be eligible for full retirement with that purchase.
Dr. Byers, did you have something?
Not currently.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you were getting ready. So it's not a breach of decorum per se, but I'm gonna jump in here for discussion, which oftentimes from a chair does not happen until a vote or a motion has been put in. I find myself in the unenviable position of publicly stating two things that are now in conflict with each other. As Ms. Chamberlain said, and I went back and was looking through things, I have said in the past that if this is a cost savings for the district, and it meets policy, then yes, I will do that. If I recall correctly, I think it was at the Wells meeting that we had the discussion with the ECTA and EXO. I believe I did publicly during the discussion say that this does jeopardize PERS buyouts. And so those are obviously in conflict. I don't know that I directly said I will not vote for retirement, but that's obviously in conflict and teaches me to watch my mouth, which, I probably should be a little bit more careful with either way. Nonetheless, I stand by my statement from last year. Dr. Byers, I appreciate that you've said that we are very much on that cusp of falling into the less than 4% ending balance, which is required by the state of Nevada. 116,693 is where that puts us. And I recognize that, and I'm willing to take that because I did say previously, if we can save money, then we need to save money. I trust that our staff has put together the best estimates, thank you, that they have. And they're estimating $116,693 in savings over the next 2 years. With an 8.5% raise this first fiscal year and a 2.5% raise next year, obviously the first year is going to be a little bit harder to come by. With that said, though, I would support a motion to approve those that are eligible, including Ms. Hamilton. And that's because I believe that she does qualify under the PERS side of things. I believe that they're eligible to retire without buyout. Currently, both of those two individuals are missing. Since last year, I seconded the motion that excluded those who did not meet the criterion. I would suggest that that would be the direction we go on a motion this year as well. So now that I've just said all of that, Teresa, I don't know if that was the information you were looking for or not, but there's my input.
Maybe it will be possible not to replace some of these positions. Too early to say because you don't know numbers and stuff yet.
Yeah, but we don't post positions until we know they need to be filled. And so, but I mean, given the way things have been the last couple of years, we have not been fully staffed with certified people. And we have not had certified positions completely filled with certified personnel. We've had to utilize long-term subs and things like that. So I know we're working real hard to fill those positions, but I would be disingenuous to say now we'll get them filled because we can't know that. we're doing our best to recruit and hire and promote from within and all the many things we're doing from an HR perspective.
To that point, if we have a large number of uncertified now become certified, does that increase our cost, correct? For payroll?
Yeah, if you have someone serving as a long-term sub and then they become certified, well, now they are going to get paid more because you get paid more for being a certified teacher than a.
I'm not
substitute.
arguing that they shouldn't. I'm just
Yes.
I'm trying to state.
Yes, I am affirming
that it would
your your
increase.
statement. Yes, their salaries would increase. So, but we don't have those numbers projected because we don't know when someone's going to finish their degree and when they'll get their certification process taken care of. So,
It was a high percentage though, when Mr. Krinka went over like how many of our uncertified were going through like the ART and the different programs. I thought it was
the majority of people that we currently have as long-term subs are in the process of or have already finished going the alternative route to licensure.
Okay. Thank you.
Not to sound like a broken record, but we're going to kind of run this like an auction for the third time. If there is a motion to be made, go ahead and make it. Otherwise, we'll let this item die for lack of motion. And in essence, this will have been rejected by the board. That's not a threat, just letting you all know that we need to move forward.
I'm prepared to make one, but I'm more inclined to accept in listening to the clause in that policy GBC where it's beneficial for the district. I see those that are eligible to retire without buyout actually account for more than half of the projected savings. So if we exclude those, our numbers go way down. And I would see that being in the best interest of the district. I really am trying to find a way to, I'm in support of all of them. I have issue with the administration side simply because of the cost. We don't see a cost savings there, but all the rest of them I would support.
Jeff, I'm happy to accept that as a motion to accept all if you would like.
Well, I'm going to have to exclude the one, the under administration that costs 17,000. That's it. I'm looking at the cost savings.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, your motion would be to accept everyone on here except the administrator.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
No.
Hearing none, that motion dies. Is there an alternate motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept all of the people on the buyout list, all of the requests for buyout.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Dies for a lack of second.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve requests for retirement service from the teacher and the administration.
So to kind of clarify, that would leave the eligible to retire without buyout off of your proposal.
Yes.
Okay, so this would be the first 6 people listed, the categories of teachers and administration. Is there a second to that motion? Dies for lack of second. So y'all are making this real fun.
There are no other choices.
So unless somebody wants to strip different people out of different categories, we have seemed to have gone through all 3 of these. There were 3 independent motions made. Would the 3 makers of the respective motions like to yield or compromise at all? If not, this will die.
I'm open to reducing. I can go ahead and make another motion to approve the buyouts for teachers with the 4 teachers in the teacher column with 28 years of service or more.
Okay, so the motion would be to buy out only the teacher category with the exception of Miss Hamilton. Am I understanding that correct, Jeff?
That's correct.
All righty. Is there a second to that motion? Hearing none, that motion dies for lack of second as well.
We have never just picked one person out of a category, which is why I'm not for that. You know what I mean? We've never just cherry picked, oh, this person, this person. So I don't want to start precedents for that.
So,
I guess is why I didn't.
I would say that we, meaning this board, has not, but in the past, the school board has done that before. I'm not advocating for that, but I just want to make sure.
Sorry, I don't remember them doing that. So
It has occurred. And I probably shouldn't say this, but it was wildly unpopular when it happened. So if you feel like that's the right thing to do, then feel free to do it.
So if we were in Congress, I think at this point I'd be a whip because I'm counting votes. We've had 3 individuals make a motion to approve. We've had 1 individual, Jeff, I'm waving my hand, indicate that he would be in favor of a motion passing of some type. That gives a majority if a motion can be found. However, I really feel like I'm pushing for this, and we have 3 board members who have not seconded or made any motions, which indicates that there could be 3 nays. So anybody that wants to make a motion or retry a motion for a hope at a second, it's not double jeopardy. We could allow this to happen.
so I can make the same one again.
You could and hope that somebody gets a second. If not, we're gonna move on.
Okay, then I'll make a motion again that we purchase retirement service for the teacher category and the admin category. They meet the criteria.
So what is the math on that really quick on what the total cost of that would be and then what the estimated savings is if we just do those?
So total cost would be approximately
41-ish.
Yeah, so total savings would be 41. So that would be column GHI. Total cost under column I would be approximately 294,000.
So spend 294,000 to save 41,000.
Correct. As Jeff pointed out, the bulk is under the eligible to retire without budget. There is a motion on the table, and I should have asked for a second before we went into that, but I know that that was a clarifying question. Is there a second to Ms. Neal's motion? All righty, hearing none, that motion dies as well, and we'll go ahead and move forward. If this needs to come back up later this evening, we can. But so I guess that's what I'll do. I'll take the pleasure of the chair, and I'm going to table this until we get past 2.08. So moving on to 2.03, receipt, review, and possible deletion of policy JIA, anomalous students physically handicapped, policy JIB, anomalous students mentally handicapped, policy JIC, anomalous students perceptually handicapped, and policy JID, anomalous student emotionally disturbed. This is for possible action. Mr. Anderson.
If you look at all 4 of these policies, you will see the same thing. They simply say CIDD. They all redirect you to another policy, which feels unnecessary.
Mr. Chair, I move that we delete these policies.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I add one more thing? I appreciate you moving things along. I do want you to know that we are also in the process of updating IDD as well. So we will see IDD at a future meeting to make sure everything we need is in there, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.04, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed new policy, JDCI, discipline of students with special needs, discretionary discipline, restraint, and seclusion for possible action. Mr. Anderson.
So this is a second reading for this policy. We had it at our last meeting in January. And the board, gave multiple suggestions for revisions. If I'm not mistaken, and all of them were included in some way or another. Even if it wasn't exact wording, it was the intent there was included. You can see those changes in the red line. And present it to you for another review for possible action.
Thank you. Discussion on this motion, or sorry, on this item.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve new policy JDCI.
Second.
Perfect. Motioned and seconded multiple times. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.05, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JGD, student welfare, student transportation for possible action. Before
Yes.
Mr. Anderson takes this on, I'm just going to throw this out that I had put this in for action or possible action. I don't believe we had this discussed previously, correct, Mr. Anderson?
Well, not at a recent meeting, no.
Okay. And so this was one of those things where it does not follow what we had previously discussed in regards to having two readings for the motion. And the main reason for that was it changes nothing other than timing. There's no change in intent or massive content. So that's why I'm putting that through for an action item. But go ahead.
Sorry, I would also add that, up to interpretation what the word necessary means, but our current policy, BFA, does state that if the board deems something is necessary to pass at first review, then they can. We are saying it is necessary because the change that we are requesting to make is because we are currently out of compliance with our own policy. And so we find it necessary to be in compliance with the policy, and changing this language would put us in compliance with it.
With that said, is there any comment or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve proposed changes to policy JGD.
Second.
Properly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. 2.06, receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy BFA, adoption and revision of policies, non-action item. I'm going to jump in ahead of Mr. Anderson again. This was also a request of mine specifically because of the last item. And basically what I've asked is that the policy be changed to allow the board president and superintendent, if they are in agreement to a minor policy change, that would be able to be added to the agenda for immediate action, and specifically that be added to the consent agenda so that it would not require as much discussion. Understanding that any item in the consent agenda could be requested to be pulled out by a board member or a member of the public. Anything you want to add, Mr. Anderson?
No.
Thank you. Because this was a more specific change to the policy and it could have more impact, I did ask that this be a non-action item. Any discussion or comments, suggested changes on this? All righty, hearing none, we'll bring that up for second reading at a future meeting. And we'll move on to 2.07, receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy JGG, student welfare, suicide prevention. This is a non-action item for first reading. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. So this policy, sorry, let me make sure I have the right one. Okay, so this is one that we did implement back in July. So we saw it semi-recently, but it was a brand new policy for us. And somewhere toward the end of the policy, it references that in the unfortunate event of anything associated with the suicide attempt or event, then kind of an after action review of everything we did. Should there be a need to review the policy or make any changes, we would do that. We did. And as I think could be expected, our first go through of using the policy, we found some areas that were more vague than we would like them to be, or maybe didn't, where we thought we were following something, it didn't meet the spirit of what we thought. So anyway, our process was we reconvened our group of people, which included mental health experts and district administrators and site administrators, and counselors and others to review and consider any changes that need to be made. The majority of the changes in the first 10, 11, like the first 11 pages are all very cosmetic in nature. You will see somewhere in there that it references JGH. That is the next item. One of the things we determined was the creation of a kind of partner policy with this, or a complementary policy at the very least. And so that's when you see JGH there, that's what it's referring to. And then the majority of the changes to this specific policy were towards the end during our steps in response to a suicide. And so, again, it was to make sure that we are meeting the spirit of what we originally intended when we put in there. And just to be perfectly honest, the main point of contention is not even the right word, but the main concern that we had in how we responded to our last tragedy was how well we did in striving to treat all deaths the same way. And I've already acknowledged publicly that we had some areas we could grow on and do better with. And this policy revision, and along with the addition of JGH for your consideration, is how we plan to do better. So happy to hear any questions if you have them about what we've changed.
Anything from the board on this one? The only thing I'd like to add in here, and this is something that doesn't need to necessarily be put into a final draft. On page 15 down towards the bottom, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what subsection it is, but it's subsection C, external communication, then subsection 2, in the event a suicide is reported by the news media. I don't know if we need to put something in there on widespread social media or something else. We know that social media spreads very quickly, and a quote unquote legitimate news media may not publish it immediately, but that may still require a statement coming from the district. And I don't want this to forestall a statement being put out if it needs to be addressed due to social media. I'll leave that with you all if you want to discuss that, but just something that I noticed.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there may be something we could change there. However, there is in JGH, which is about response to death, there is something in there about social
utilizing
media.
the district social media.
We do talk about the usage of social media and that policy.
Great.
So it may just address your concern there.
Perfect. Thank you. So then moving on to item 2.08, receipt review and discussion of proposed new policy JGH, student welfare, death of student or staff. As Mr. Anderson just stated, this is a companion policy to JGG. If there are any items for discussion or requested changes from the board. All righty, go ahead.
I do have a question of page 6, just talking about memorials. The schools that already have memorials, are those to just stay? This is from moving forward from now on?
What permanent memorials are you referring to?
I know there's some at Northside. Like with teachers, I'm just saying the ones that already are there, will they stay in place? Or is this policy going to remove those?
It's a great question.
Am I speaking, maybe Ms. Chamberlain, am I speaking out of, in the back, there's like the plaques? Is that not, maybe I'm, but it's students
The
and
policy
staff.
is student and staff, death of student or staff. I will say that in the creation of this policy, I don't think that, well, for example, I know we don't have any here, at least I don't think we do, but there are places where people name schools after people. I don't think the intent was to remove those types of things. It's more like when there's a kind of a sudden death type of thing. I don't know how to say that better. I mean, because by that token, we would need to go rip down the things of schools that were built in the past with Board of Trustees names are on those things. So I think it depends on the definition of memorial and what purpose it serves. It's a really great question, honestly. It was not at all part of the equation of what we were talking about in those meetings when we
And I'm
developed
not
this.
asking for them
Yeah.
to be taken,
Yeah.
I was just curious if that meant from this point forward, this is how we're doing this. I mean, that makes sense to me, but I didn't want someone to go, oh, do we need to rip everything? So
I'll bring that topic back up with the group.
If we could maybe get an inventory from our administrators of what they may have.
I don't even like that idea though of not being, I don't know. That's a complicated question. I don't want to say it. It feels different, that type of.
Yeah, those are a little different. Maybe
The namesake is
maybe
different
figure out
than
the definition
putting a
first.
memorial for, maybe we have to define what we're talking about when we say memorial. Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking an inventory, because that may
Yeah.
give us that better
complicated.
definition of that. I think at Elko High School, at the field, I mean, isn't there a bust, or there used to be, I thought, of somebody as well. So, okay. Good point, Susan. Thank you. Any additional board comments? Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. On number 8, when it talks about ongoing follow-up and 1-year anniversary, I understand, there's some specific things listed there. And I don't know that this necessarily needs to be in policy, but just recognizing that any day could be an emotional day for someone who loses someone that's close to them, regardless of the reason for that person's passing. And having experienced the death of several students, I know this can be ongoing without obvious reason. And so just however we want to make sure that at some point, not at some point, but that there's always something available for a student or a staff member who happens to be grieving.
Yes.
And not necessarily on those particular days. But I appreciate the thought that was put into that paragraph, because those certainly can be triggering events. But any day could be, a joke can be told and someone can feel like, oh, wow, all of a sudden they are not, fit to even be in class because of the emotions that overcome them. So I don't know how to put that into policy. And I know we have a lot of great people on our campuses that can help with that, but just the awareness that any day could be a challenging day when someone is lost.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Any additional comments or guidance? Okay, then we are back per the chair's pleasure of tabling item 2.02, bringing that back up. Is there an action that anyone or a motion anyone would like to take action on this item?
I have a quick question. I was able to review GBC 19 a little further. And in section F, it says that ECSD may budget a set amount each year during the budget process for potential purchases of retirement credit, and wanted to ask, have we set that aside?
Can I answer that one?
Go ahead.
The word may is utilized in there to mean no. I honestly, I think that's how that has been used, because there's no money set aside specifically for buyouts, to my knowledge.
Yeah, and at this point, you know, the numbers that we have, as best as we know them, those were to a certain extent prepared prior to our loss of a CFO, and we've had excellent people stepping in the meantime. But the last time I spoke with our previous CFO about this item, I asked that direct question, and she said there is no specific money set aside for buyouts.
So it's always been done from general fund.
I believe so.
Second item is I did reread in GBC 19 section C, I reread that, and it does say exactly, no language contained herein shall be construed as to prevent the district from purchasing up to 2 years of service credit if the Elko County School District Board of Trustees determines that it is beneficial to the district to do so. I see a benefit from all but one of these buyouts in the manner of cost savings. I was assured by Mr. Anderson earlier that those numbers are in fact accurate. And so I'm going to go ahead again and make a motion that we approve all buyouts as listed that result in a cost savings for the district. That would only exclude the one member of that list.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
There is a second. Sorry, that was not disrespectful. I apologize. Okay, so further discussion. At the risk of killing the motion, Jeff, thank you. I understand where you're coming from with Ms. Chamberlain. Keep in mind that the reality will be that we will have two administrators. If I understood Mr. Anderson previously,
most likely that is what I would
there will almost
choose to do.
assuredly be two administrators at this particular school, so as not to cause disruption, which may mean that this cost of $17,000 to the district will probably grow as we move forward. So just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that was my question earlier as to whether or not that number was accurate because of that situation. So is that what we're saying, is that we're going to be paying an extra person on top of this person? So that the 17,000, and instead of if we just go with the one person and don't pay the salary, we lose 17. But if we don't do the buyout, is what you're telling me is we're going to not lose 17, but we're going to have to pay another person for those 3 months, which is the same thing, basically. So it does result in a net savings is what I'm looking at here.
So I don't know that we can require the superintendent to move in a specific direction for that, since administration falls clearly under his purview. I guess he is responsive to us, but that would be dangerously close to directing operations of the district. My understanding from what he said is, yes, there will probably be two administrators, which would mean that we would have to weigh that cost against the cost of the 17,000 that is currently listed on this document. So I think these numbers are accurate with the assumption that the retirement goes through. The retirement not going through, the calculations that we'd have to recalculate for every person that's on there, I think. So
this is a narrow scope. I'm looking at the overall savings, and I'm curious what that number would be.
That's not possible to know because I don't know who we would be hiring at this time. I don't know what that salary would look like. And it would also depend on if Miss Chamberlain decided to retire at the date of retirement, or if she decided to hang around for a while. I'm not suggesting she would do anything maliciously, but we're making a lot of assumptions as to what would happen in the future if her credit isn't purchased. So I cannot give anything more accurate. The information that is here on this paper indicates what the cost would be to the district to purchase her credit and have her retire at the end of this year. Everything beyond that, if it's not done, is speculative.
I'm gonna
Jeff, just-
speculate, and I'm just gonna tell you that, yes, it will cost more. Like, I know that Mr. Anderson, and this is a political sphere, and everybody doesn't want to, but I've got 10 years of business under my belt, and I'll just save you, Jeff, you should know this too. Like, I know you're trying to pin this down, but for the sake of time and for everyone's sanity here, they're not gonna give that to you, but we all know that if we have 2 administrators, it's gonna cost more than the savings that we have here, so. Can we?
Back of
I'm
the,
sorry, I've tried to communicate what I will do.
Yeah.
What I cannot do is give you a number because I do not know what that number will be.
For sure. And
So,
I'm not
trying to
faulting
be
you.
difficult.
No. I'm not trying to fault you at all, Mr.
I
Anderson. for
can't
sure.
give you a number that you
I'm
want.
just saying for the sake of time, let's we can sit here and speculate. You know, we could go through all 40 administrators and look at their stuff. Like, it's going to cost more money if she sticks around than the $17 or $17K that we have sitting here. So
very quick,
I'll
back of
speculate.
the napkin math. Jeff, if we take the column D, divide that by 3, since it's going to be 3 employees, and then divide that by 4, which would be roughly 1/4 of the year. And I know that's not how they're paid, but I'm just trying to make it simple. That comes out to $21,666.67. So it'd be roughly $4,000 more to go that direction than to do the buyout, if it's strict averages.
Well, that's what I've been looking for this entire time, is an excuse to include all of those. Can I amend my motion to include all people listed?
Since I've already publicly stated which way I'm going, I'm happy to allow you to amend that. Would the maker of the second
I'm fine
amend
with that.
that?
I will state that I issued the second because I think the board should act on this in one way or another. So sure.
Great. All right. So the motion on the table is to accept all of the members, all of the buyouts requested on this document. It has been seconded. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
All righty.
Sorry, I just have to
I
comment.
don't know that we can.
Yeah.
A call for the question would
you.
be for us to vote on this. Now, we could deny it and you could ask your question, but a call for the question would mean all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
And chair votes aye as well. This motion passes. Thank you all. That was not the way I expected the first presidential meeting I get to preside over. So thank you all. For what it's worth, in the future, I appreciate this being at the first meeting because frankly, had this died for lack of action, the policy allows us to have up until March 1st. I would have brought this back on the next agenda, just to let everybody know, not to set precedent. I'm just letting everyone know that we do have another option. And I would strongly suggest that the administration put this on the first meeting of February moving forward. Okay, we are done with our action items and discussion and action items. So we're going to go to consent agenda, item 3.01.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote aye as well. Motion passes. 4.01 Superintendent Matters. Before I turn it over to Mr. Anderson, I've let the board know that I did switch superintendent and board matter discussion points, so the superintendent comes first. So if anybody is thinking there was a mistake, this is intentional. And with that, Mr. Anderson, we turn it to you.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on Heather Steele's presentation earlier. I appreciate her coming here and sharing that with you. I do want to acknowledge that as we know Heather can do, she could have talked for an hour about the amazing CTE programs we have, and they are so robust and they're incredible for our students. And the fact that we have that many industry certificates and we have a third of our district participating in CTE programs is pretty phenomenal. It's so phenomenal that CTE is at the forefront of our minds when we consider the governor's acing accountability endeavor he's put forth to go along with the increase to the People Center funding plan is allowing for districts to identify specific areas beyond just math scores, reading scores, attendance and graduation rates. We know those things are very important, but we also know that our students are more than a number. When you introduced Zachary Gull, I didn't catch anyone read his attendance for the year. I didn't catch anyone read his SBAC scores or his MAP scores. And I doubt he knows those off the top of his head. And I doubt he's putting it on a college application. Those things are decent indicators of the direction the kid's going. But our students are more than a score. And I believe that about you, Mr. Gull, and I believe that about all of our students. And so I say all that because to again come back to ECSD and the CTE program, we are tasked with providing the state with what we would like to highlight from our district, and we can do up to 2 goals. And Mr. Smith and I will be working with some of the folks from the state to help determine what's a good goal. How can we adequately measure it? So it's not just feel good. Oh, our kids love CTE, right? Like that's not a goal either. But CTE is at the forefront of our minds, and it's something we do pretty well in Elko County. And so we're going to make sure we didn't give Heather an hour to highlight it, but we're going to make sure that we show that it's important. So just wanted to share that with you. Let's see. Very importantly, hopefully at the next meeting, I'm able to talk about a successful presentation to the Interim Finance Commission. I'm leaving tomorrow at some point to head over to Carson City, where I will on Thursday morning petition for the SB 231 funds that our district is eligible for based off of our negotiated agreements and off that Senate bill that was passed at this most recent legislative session. So I'll be heading over there. Feel free to tune in if you want. I think it starts at 9 in the morning on Thursday, and I can't promise when I will be tasked with speaking, but I will be up there and advocating for our teachers and support staff to have those funds that I hope that are available. Okay, so I'll be doing that. It's kind of a big deal. And then yeah, be doing some other stuff too, but it's been a long meetings already. One thing I do want to do, I'm very excited about, and I'm not going to force him to talk, but I am going to ask him to come stand up here for a minute. If David Jenkins would come stand forward here. David Jenkins has been interviewed and has been offered and has accepted the role of our next Chief Financial Officer for Elko County School District. He got himself a good looking suit, and we're glad to have him joining our team. He is, I didn't even tell him he had to come tonight. He hasn't officially started working with us yet, but the start date is next Monday, the 12th. And he will come join our team, and it will be good to have a CFO back in the house. And he did all that knowing we've been out without a CFO for a couple of months. He knows full well what he's joining, and he's excited and passionate about doing it. And so I don't know if you want to talk to them or not, but I figured I'd introduce you to him. So
I didn't really prepare anything. I didn't know I was going to be brought up here. I would have. I do know some of you, and I look forward to working with all of you. And if you guys have any questions for me right now, I'd be more than willing to answer them. But if not, I'll just kind of cut it off there. Anyone? Okay.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll have lots of questions later. I'm sure.
Yeah, welcome to the team.
Including how we do buyouts.
Yeah, I didn't ask him to prepare anything because I didn't want him to have to, but thank you for coming, David. And we are genuinely excited, and big thanks to all of our staff in finance and even in the grants department who've been doing more than their fair share the last 2 months to help out. So David's going to hit the ground running, and I'll even petition you to be few and far between with your questions at first as he adapts to life as a CFO in a school district. So.
Were you looking at me?
I'm just, it's this general direction.
Okay.
You know, if you interpreted more than that, that's on you, Matt. And I'll close it out there. There's lots of great things happening, but again, we're dragging on. So let's move on to the next one.
Great. Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions back for Mr. Anderson that you don't want to put in your board member comments? Perfect. So that allows us to move into board matters and items from the board members 5.01. Mr. Durham, would you like to do anything since I can't see you reaching for a mic?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and lead off. I was requested by you to join the President's Workshop in your stead this weekend in Las Vegas. I got to meet with board presidents from all over the state. It was a great discussion. We had a little bit of a training in the morning. Went through a book called Dare to Lead and a little workshop with that. And then after that, we had a little overview of Nevada's political landscape from our lobbying firm that we've hired, Mr. Tom Clark. He talked about a little bit of the formation of the legislature and the Senate this year or going forward. There's a lot of new candidates. There's the possibility of a supermajority out there, which if that were to happen, you've got around 75 vetoes that might be coming back through next year. We also talked a little bit about, there's some buzz about change in property taxes and the methodology behind that a little bit. I want to remind you all also, there's an email survey that went out. You should have just received that yesterday in your inboxes or the day before. And it's asking for direction for our lobbying firm and anything we want them to do. So that's something we should consider everybody filling out that questionnaire and talking about. And that kind of leads into what we did after lunch. We talked about, and Matt and I talked about this before I went, is to get on the same page as what we want to present. But it said to please identify one distinct strength within our district and school board that significantly contributes to its overall success. And we decided to go with how cohesive our board is, how we're all able to, we have different opinions. We come from different walks of life, but at the end of the day, we support each other. We respect each other, and it's a big strength. And one of the achievements that made us proud was when we did 4-day school last year. We went through the entire process and we did it the right way. We both felt like that was something to be real proud of, and that was well received by the other board presidents. Another part of the discussion was talking about what the primary challenges currently facing our district and school board. And of course, that was the financial uncertainty that we're going through. And that was echoed by almost every other board. So in my survey, that's going to be a big part of it, is finance and how we go forward. And what else? I had one other note here that I was just going to mention, completely off in left field, but we were talking about recruitment a little bit in a smaller group. And I was talking to someone from White Pine, and they pay, or we were talking about the grow your own teachers or grow within teachers. And one of the things that they're doing is folks that do student teaching, they are paying them as long-term subs. So they make a little bit more money, and it helps build a little more connection with that student in hopes that they will come back and come back to us as a full-time student, as a full-time certified teacher. So that I thought was a good suggestion and something we might look at as far as recruiting. Also, going forward, there's a couple dates I just want to share with you. There's a professional development, a virtual workshop coming up on the 22nd of this month. And I don't have any details on an email on that, but I'll get on that right away as I was looking for that and have some more information for you by our next meeting on the 20th. And then there's also a professional development in Reno. Tom Clark is going to be doing that one again, the lobbying firm, and that's on legislative readiness, a strategic approach. So that might be a good one to mark your calendars for. And really, that's all I have.
So Jeff, what's the date on that one?
The date on that one is the 16th of March.
Thank you.
And I would implore somebody to please go and give a report. I have a prior commitment and I'm not going to be able to make that one, but if we can get somebody out to that one, and possibly I didn't see if there's a NASB meeting before that or not, but there usually is. So I forget from our last meeting who my backup is, but I need to call you into action for that one.
It's me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be traveling for my son's spring break. I'm going to pick him up, and yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who else would like board comments?
A real quick one. I'd still like to see some sort of policy put together from a business standpoint. Again, I'm getting bombarded by students and by program managers to the tune of thousands of dollars. And while they're not keeping track, we're keeping track, and those funds are going to start to dwindle. And so I'd like to see some sort of policy that we can get together where big ticket support is known ahead of time, as opposed to just someone comes in, hey, can you help me support? Can you support me? Sure. Here's $1,000. Here's $2,000. And then the next person, and then the next person, and then the next person. And then I know that other school districts do stuff where hey, if you do this big donation, nobody will bug you for the whole season. So there's other ways of doing this other than nickel and diming. I know other business owners that have students that come in, and they know a lot of people in the community, and everyone wants $100, everyone wants $500. And I can tell you the businesses are running out of funds. So we're going to have to start getting more creative on those levels. I know this is a district level, but if we can have some sort of general guidance policy of these are our big fundraisers, not to limit smaller ones in case they need to fill in the gaps, but there's got to be some way where we can let business owners know what's out there, as opposed to, hey, I'm a booster at both EHS and Spring Creek. And then, by the way, wrestling comes in, and now, hey, what can you do here? Here's a couple hey, I've got Corollaires. Hey, we've got baseball. Now we've got basketball. Now can you do a basket for this? I'm running out of funds, guys. So everything costs more. And so I'd like to see a policy where we can try and get those kind of scheduled out. We know what they are. Maybe some guidance to those program managers. So just a request, not just from me, but other business owners that come to me because I am on this board. So that's it.
I would tell you that I get quite a few requests myself in my business, probably at least one a week.
Thank you. Ladies, anything to add? All right, I'm going to throw one out. We obviously just discussed GBC 19. We were able to get through that, but it may be good to have some clarifying language that says, or if PERS allows something. So if we can bring that up at a future date, I would appreciate it. Mr. Gold, anything you'd like to add? All righty. Okay. We'll move on to 6.01, approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
All right. Motion to end seconded. For clarification, I'm assuming this is the accounts payable for February, not the board reimbursement?
Yes.
Perfect. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Well, I have to disclose.
Okay, that's right. Disclosures. Go ahead.
I have to disclose that I have a family member that works for Lone Wolf, and so I'm abstaining from voting.
Okay.
I have to disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
And I also have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, and I will not abstain either.
Great. Thank you. With those disclosures, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Vote aye as well. Motion passes. Happy to entertain a motion for the second item.
Move to approve the AP board member reimbursement for February the 6th.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And I will be abstaining because it's for me for reimbursement for the S.T.A.R.S. program.
All righty. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All righty, motion passes. At this time, we'll move into our final option and opportunity for input from the public and the previous admonition in regards to limitations apply. Any public comment? Seeing none, we stand in adjournment. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening. Safe travels home.